Good morning, evening, and or afternoon. Struggler Bright here with a brand new video today, and we're going to be talking about Fire Emblem Engage. This little next video series that I'm going to do is going to be kind of like a gaming experiences with Bry 2023, where I'm going to talk about the games that I play and beat. Not necessarily games that I've played and beaten on stream. I've streamed them, but I don't play them entirely, especially Engage, which was like 40 to 45 hours long. And I kind of just want to document my thoughts on the game, the pros of the game, the negatives of the game. This video will be spoilery, a little spoiler centric, but not too. Or spoilers or a story discussion for the game won't be like the central point of the game, so I won't like outright spill out main twist. But this is your warning: you don't want to be spoiled. Get out. I won't take any offense. I promise. All right. So for those that are still here and that are ready to talk about Fire Emblem Engage, has one of my JRPGs that I've completed for the first time ever. Not for the first time ever. I've completed many, but for the first JRPG that I completed this year, Fire Emblem Engage was an excellent video game. I think it was. It was pretty divisive against the or amongst the Fire Emblem community. Among us, and Byleth is there too. I think it was one of those things where it was strong, like it was the complete opposite of Three Houses, and if you really love Three Houses, you weren't probably going to like Engage, and if you disliked Three Houses, you probably ended up loving Engage, which is weird for me because I love Three Houses and I also loved Engage. I find that like maybe I my threshold for enjoying games is not that high. But the game did have some issues. Like it's very clear that like it didn't have the same character interactions and growth that was like found in Three Houses on the personal level. You don't have Byleth trying to trying to bond with their students and finding out all about their stories and traumas. A lot of Engage's story felt very. It was a story. It was something that like it was a salvageable slash serviceable story enough that like it was enough to keep playing the game and see what happens, but it was pretty surface level. There wasn't any like huge major twists, but I don't think that was necessarily a bad thing. I think it was more so if you wanted the same level of storytelling that you found in Three Houses, you didn't get that in Engage. I feel like story wasn't their focus with Three Houses or with Engage, which was also a pro and negative for me, and I'll talk about that in just a second. I think that like the biggest thing about Engage's story is that it kind of just wanted you to play the game. It wanted you to just get into combat, go from combat encounter to combat encounter, and combat encounter to combat encounter. Which, if you love Fire Emblem's gameplay and you really enjoy it, you'll like it. Um, Huge fans of strategy games like that I think will genuinely like Engage more, and I liked it that way. I do love me a very well written story, but at the same time, I really love Fire Emblem's gameplay. The strategy aspects are really fun to do. I think Engage definitely falls at about like a 7 out of 10 for me. I usually don't rate my games too much these days just because all numbers are pretty arbitrary, but we're just going to talk about my experiences with them. The cast was like a huge plus. The main character, Alir, being voiced entirely, massive plus. I feel like it reinforces the idea that the main character of Pokemon games should be voiced because it really adds to that character growth. And being able to connect to that character on a level that isn't just, oh, I'm playing as this character in a self-insert RPG role, you know? The negatives for Engage, let me list my positives first. Enjoyable cast, fun gameplay, good music. Probably my main three pros for Engage. While the negatives for it would be really predictable story. Story that felt like it was a Saturday morning cartoon, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just when you're coming from Three Houses to Engage, it was much more surface level. And some of the support conversations were bad. I don't get what they were doing with some of the bond conversations with the emblems. Like sometimes you just have, I don't know, Ike would go up to Alir and say, "Man, I swung my sword today. And Alira's like, oh, cool. And then bond increased. But with that, it's like, I think the game was good, but I think it's going to be one of those games that remains divisive amongst people that play it, especially long-term fans. But if you have a Nintendo Switch and you like strategy games, I highly recommend you check it out because I think it was like it's definitely a must own if you have a Switch. I love Fire Emblem. I'm very biased towards it. I think for one of the first major releases of the year, it was a great release, and I look forward to playing the DLC. I haven't played the first wave, and I'm looking forward to the story expansion when that drops. And that's about it. That's about my experience with it. These videos are going to be much more just personal experiences with these games, and if I recommend them or not. If you have a Nintendo Switch and you want to play Fire Emblem, highly recommend it. You get yourself a nice little 40-hour experience out of it. One major pro is I think the graphics and the character models looked really good, but I know a lot of people weren't a fan of the style. So it comes down to like a personal preference just on what you want from Fire Emblem at this point as a long-term fan. As a new fan, I think you can pick it up and just go. And on that note, stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to talk about my experience with playing The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, the base game. And then after that will be The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. Thank you for tuning in for my long-term video.